have you ever stopped to wonder why atheists are so emotional? Yeah, some of these guys are vigorously angry at God. They are so tore up, so upset, so furious at God that it's almost like he exists or something. And then this angst and this emotion and this deep fervor is so caught up in these guys that they have to reach out and attack Christians with the same emotional zealousness and fervor, and they get really, really stirred up about this. And some of them to the point that actually make it a lifelong goal, a lifelong pursuit to destroy all things God or all things Christianity. So a question or two I'd like to ask is this because of some kind of previous church hurt? Now, for some, surely it is, and they display this and they actually share this. They say, hey, the church absolutely hurt me. It chastised me. It scorned me. It ridiculed me and put boundaries on myself that I just could not handle. But if we consider that, if it is church hurt, then our resistance against God is emotional. And that's not really logical now, is it? And further, God didn't actually offend you, did he? Like, did he personally do it? Or did your offense come through the church? Now, for some, their offense has come through their family or through Christians around them, Christians who did them wrong in one way or another. And so they are emotional and offended because of the way they were treated. But this all brings about something deeper. Now, and I want to apologize if somebody's ever done that to you. That's not right. And I believe in absolute right and wrong. That is not right. But from your side of the fence as an atheist, the deeper question is if everything is matter and lights and pulses and sounds, then who cares if somebody ever offended you or stirred up your emotions or your feelings? That takes it down to right and wrong just being based on how you feel, which makes you as an atheist a very emotional creature. Your ultimate basis for right and wrong is based on how something makes you feel. But it's so funny that when we jump over to God, it's like, oh, logic. It has to be pure logic. You have to prove God to me in some sort of logical fashion. But my resistance or my claims against God is that he makes me feel icky, or the church made me feel icky, or I am offended by this, that, or the other, or someone has hurt me. And then it's really funny to me that atheists that are so emotional about this argument of God existing or not, they actually blame Christians for trusting their feelings. They're like, oh, you're all engaged and you've got the wool pulled over your eyes, and it's confirmation bias, and you talk about this thing called the heart, and all that's so emotional. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. You really need a stronger argument that for God to not exist than something based on your feelings of what is right and wrong. I can't tell you how many times people are like, God is a war god, and that's wrong. But it's because of how you feel, and that's not really logical. And so again, when atheists resist God, they always want to put him into a logic box. And I think about this. That's like saying that music doesn't exist because it doesn't have colors. Yeah, music doesn't exist because it doesn't have red or white or blue or green or yellow. And so music doesn't exist. But yet we know that it does exist. And you're like, but it doesn't exist according to these criteria, but it exists in its own unique criteria. Sure, you can see some of the resemblance here. And it's funny that atheists use their emotions in every other facet of life. Yes, so think about this. An atheist, does he or she ever use their emotions with how they choose their job? You bet your bottom dollar they do. If I have to choose between teaching at this university or that university, which one am I more comfortable at? Which one's going to have a better pension that's going to make me more comfortable in the long run? Or what about the music that an atheist listens to? Like, I'm more into 80s rock, but no, I'm into artistic music or classical music, but it's based upon how a person feels. Or what about their friends? Do you think they choose friends based on logic, or do you think they base their friendships on how these people make them feel? How do they choose spouses? Man, I feel really good around her. She accepts me. Or how am I going to raise my kids? Well, I didn't have these advantages in life, and that was kind of hurtful to me. So I want to give my kids advantages because that's beneficial and that would be, good for them. Or how do you choose vacation? Surely that has nothing to do with feelings. Or what TV show you choose. Or what about how does an atheist choose politicians? Because, they're probably all lying about just about everything. And so with politicians, this politician is saying these words and these politicians saying these words. Which one do I trust more, distrust more? And is that not a gut feeling? What about hobbies? Do you choose your hobbies based on pure logic or how you feel? Or how do you choose where you live? If you can choose where you live, but you base that on, this house might bring me more prestige, or what community am I going to live in? Well, I feel safer in this community. Or what about choosing a car to drive? What kind of car am I going to drive? Well, I want to drive this electric car because, I feel like that's probably better for the environment. And, if we don't, the apocalypse is coming. We're going to burn the earth up, and that's a lot of pain and suffering. So based on how I feel, do you understand that you use emotions constantly in making decisions, in making and drawing logical conclusions, but you're actually showing emotional bias by not using your emotions when it comes to God? Like, as an atheist, I'll use my emotions all day long for every other thing, but when it comes to God, logic only. That actually gives proof that God exists because you are terrified to go to that place. Along with this, your emotions, we can see from this that your emotions confirm for you that God exists, and that's why you don't want to engage them. Now, obviously, all atheists don't want to be thrown in the same boat. And there's some of you out there saying, well, that's not my experience. Everything in my life is logic, order, and facts. I base everything off pros and cons. And those pros and cons are what's beneficial and advantageous versus, wait, that's kind of emotional. But anyway, everything is just logic only. So my question to them is, what emotions, what feelings are buried so deeply then that you are afraid to experience them? You are afraid that you can't really encounter those emotions, or they will just destroy you. I would encourage you then to come to the feet of Jesus, who is my Lord and Savior, and let him balance out your emotions instead of leaving your life in an emotionally strained and off-center state of bias and anger and frustration.